Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling General Ledger Lesson 42. And please, Victor, walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome to this lesson of our Oracle's Financials Functional Training. In this lesson, we are going to continue with what we started our previous one, which is creating FSG reports using the FSG tool. In our previous lesson, we saw how to create a row set, which is one of the mandatory features of an FSG report, the other one being a column set. So in this lesson, we are going to see how to create a column set in order to generate an FSG report. So we mentioned how the row set and the column set are the two mandatory features that we need in order to create an FSG report. And we saw what a column set does. So in a column set, you specify the periods that you want to see in your reports, and with the interaction of whatever accounts you specify in your row set, then you are able to see values for those periods and those accounts. In the column set, you can also specify the amount types that you want to see. You can specify YTD amounts or PTD amounts, project to date, quarter to date. You have various dimensions of amount types that you can specify. As we go on into more complex reports, we are also going to see that there are other things you can specify in your column set, such as balance amounts. You can specify whether to display actual amounts or budget amounts or encumbrance amounts. You can also specify to see variances in a certain column, so a difference between one column and the other or something like that. You can see variances between budget amounts and actual amounts. And those are all features that we are going to learn how to use as we delve into more complex ways of generating FSG reports. But for now, we are going to try to replicate this simple report that we see on the screen. We are going to try and produce a balance sheet report from our Mascani Group US ledger. And so the column set that we are going to design is going to show these three periods, or three periods. It doesn't specifically have to be what we are seeing here, January, February, or March. And we are going to show YTD balances, because what we are creating is a balance sheet report. Now, just moving on to understand the column set. This is the hierarchy or a representation of the different levels we come through when we are designing a column set. Just like I showed you with the row set, okay? So we have here the highest level where we define the name of the column set, the name and the description. And then we go to the column definition or description, where we identify a particular column. And then, unlike in the row set where we had one-to-many relationship, where we could have one-to-many relationship between the column description and the column assignment, in the column set it's a one-to-one. Okay, So whatever column description you define in your column set, then that is the single column that's going to be shown in your report. Okay, so unlike in the row set where at this level we had one-to-many relationship, where we had a row description, and that row could be exploded into many into many row assignments. For here, it's a one-to-one relationship in the column set. So in order to create a column set, this is the navigation that we are going to follow. So reports define column set, and let's head over straight to Oracle. So let me log in using my user. I'm going to log in as Maskani Group super user. So let's go to reports, define, then column set. So reports, define, column set. So again, this is the window that opens when you follow that navigation, and here we can enter the name that we want to assign to this column set. So we can call it Maskani Group. We can call it Maskani balance sheet column set. Yes. Remember, for row set we call it Maskani balance sheet row set, or RS. So that's fine, and we can save. Now, so we are at this level, we have defined the name of the column set. Now we have to go and do the column descriptions or definitions. So in our previous lesson, I mentioned that you have some predefined column sets in Oracle that come with a system that you can use. Okay, so if I close this and follow the navigation again, reports define column set, and I do a full query. Of course, there are some which have been created by other users here, but if you scroll down here, you will see some of them, like this one, annual comparative, quarter to date and year to date. These are some of them that come with the system. Okay, so let's go back to ours. Again, when you have those ones which come with the system, let me just do that query again. Then you can modify them to use them in your own report. Okay, and what you need to do, what that means is that you don't need to build your column set from scratch like we are going to do. So what you do is just come here to define columns, okay, and you can make your changes. Okay, the problem with this, as we are going to see, as we are going to learn from creating our own, is that it can be a bit cumbersome to make the modifications because you don't know specifically the position of your columns, because we create one column at a time, and we sequence them, or we put them in a particular order so that you can make particular changes or additions to them. So when you have one like this, it can be a bit difficult because you really don't know which column you're working on. But for us, we are going to create our own column set from scratch, and we are going to use this button here. So build column set. Okay. So let me look for Mascani once again. And so we are going to go and select build column set. So when you select build column set, this is the window that opens. Okay, and here is where you build your columns. Okay, so to build your columns, what do you start with? Let's start with a sequence. Okay, and the sequence is just the order of the columns. So the first one can be 10, then the second column will be 20, and then the third column will be 30, like that. Or you can do 1, 2, 3, depending on your taste. But the advantage of doing something like the 10, 20, 30 is that you can add columns in between. So you can add a column number 11 between 10 and 20, but you can't add like a column 1.5 between 1 and 2, something like that. So let's create our first column, and it's going to be the first one, sequence 10. Let's just go back to our slides and see what we are trying to recreate. So we're going to create something like this. Okay. So we're going to have 3 columns, and they are going to show YTD amounts for the accounts which we selected in our row sets. Okay. Okay, you can enter the name for this column, and what this does is that you can use this name to reference this column when you want to make some changes to it. Maybe if you want to make use this as a calculations column, then you can use that name to identify this column when you're entering that command. But it's not a compulsory field. Okay. So amount type. What amounts do we want to show? We want to show YTD. It's a balance sheet. So we want to show YTD, and you see all these are amount types that you can use. Okay. So what we want is year-to-date actual balances. All right. Now, offset. What do we mean by offset? Offset is like it's like a position in reference to a specific thing. Okay. So just going back to our slides, we want to show a balance sheet that looks like this. Okay. So using the periods that are here, supposing we are running this balance sheet for the period of March 2018. Okay. So when we run the balance sheet report, we want it to run for March 2018, but we also want to see the amounts for February and January the same year, 2018. Okay. So our period of interest is March 2018. Okay. So in a way, all the other periods that are shown on the report are shown in reference to our period of interest. Okay. So when we enter the offset, what we are saying is it's like the position of that particular column in reference to the period of interest. Okay. So saying that our report will follow this same format, that March 2018 will be our last period here. Okay. Then we want to see also for January 2018. January 2018 is 2 months off the period of interest. So its offset will be -2. Okay, so I'm just doing this to explain the meaning of offset. So that is how to understand offset. So if you want to see March 2018 and also want to see the previous 2 periods, then January offset will be -2, then February offset will be -1. If you want to see March 2018, but we are actually in April 2018, then the offset for April 2018 will be +1. Okay, because March is our period of interest. Okay, if February is our period of interest, then the offset for March is +1 and the offset for January is -1. Okay, the offset for February, of course, will be 0. So it's just, offset is basically the positioning in reference to the period of interest. Okay. Remember, these periods will be picked up when we actually run the report. Okay. So what we are entering here is basically like commands. So supposing we define this, we can run the same report for a different period. Okay, so if we run the report for March 2018, this is what it will produce. Okay, but if we're already in April and we run this same report using the same row set and the same column set for April 2018, then an offset of -2 will take us to February. All right, so that's the meaning of offset. So for our first column, we want the offset to be -2 because we want to go 2 periods back. Okay, so that's good. Down here, you will see the heading. So all these fields are for the heading of the column, which will appear on the report. Okay, so you can enter your own custom heading here, or you can click this button and create a default heading. So when you create a default heading, what happens? This is what will be shown in the report. Okay, the heading will show that the balances being shown are, the amounts being showed are YTD actual, and this macro here, this is a macro, and it says POI. POI means period of interest. Okay, so once we generate the report and we specify which period we are running it for, then this will because we have said the offset is -2, then this macro will cause for the period to be shown by this column in the report to be the period of interest -2, which -2 is the offset. Okay, so if this is March 2018, then if our period of interest is March 2018, then this column will show March 2018 -2, which is January 2018. Okay, so that's our first column, and now we want to create 3 columns. Okay, so let's add a new column here, and you click on this button, and the sequence will be 20 because it's our second column. We want YTD also. Now the offset for this will be -1. Okay, let's create another column, 30 sequence, YTD actual, and now we can do create default heading, because when you create default heading, it creates for everything, and it will override whatever we had entered here already. So we can create all the columns and then do the create default heading. So let's cancel first and enter the offset here to be 0, and then now create default heading. So this will be the headings of our column. Okay, so it will show that the amounts are YTD actual. It will indicate the respective periods. So this will be a period of interest, this third column here. Okay, this will be a period of interest -1, and this will be a period of interest -2. Format mask just shows you how the figures will appear on the report. So this is the format. It will show commas after every 3 values, and it will have 2 decimal places. And you can change that if you want. You can add currency signs, maybe a dollar sign if your report is in dollars or euros or whatever it is. But as for now, this is what will be shown. Okay, so we can apply and okay, save that. So we have defined, we have built the column set. Okay. Now let's select this define columns button. So this define columns button allows you to make some changes. Okay. So you see you can change the offset from here. And since you're the one who created the report, now you are you know the positioning, okay, of your columns. So this is your first column, this is your second column, and this is your third column. Okay. You can change display options here. You can tell the system that when you generate reports, if there's a 0 value in that particular intersection of the row set and the column set, and to display 0. And we will see, we will also see how these options like change sign and change sign on variance, they affect the appearance of the reports. And these are all like these display options here are cosmetic. It's just for the appearance of the report. Okay. All right. So we also have other options here, calculations and account assignments, and we are also going to see how to use them when we are creating more complicated reports. Okay. So, but that looks fine. So now we have a column set and we have a row set, and we know that those are the 2 mandatory features that we need in order to create a report. Okay. So to go back to our slides, we have created the column set and we have created the row set. And we know this is how we create an FSG report. These are the 2 mandatory ones, and you can attach content set, row order, and display set to achieve other goals with the report. But now we know that we have all that we need to create a simple balance sheet report from our Mascani group ledger. Okay. This is the navigation to create a report, and we are going to follow that. So we can do report define, then report, or we can go to report request. Instead of standard as we've always done, we'll do financial. Okay. So we can go reports, define, then report. This is this window where that brings us. Or we can do report, then request, then financial. We do individual reports, okay. But we have first to define the reports, okay, in order to use that navigation, okay, because we haven't yet defined the report. We have to define the report, what it is, and select the required features, the row set and the column set, and then we can come here, okay. So let's close that. So let's go to reports, define, report. So we want this to be a balance sheet, Maskani group balance sheet. You can put that in the description too. Then here we can select our row set. We know our row set is also called Maskani, and I believe it's the only one called Maskani, and the column set is also called Maskani. Okay, you can save this. So once we have defined this financial report, then we can come and run it multiple times for different periods. Okay. We can also modify it using our optional components, the content set, the row order, and the display set. Okay. But now once we have defined the report, we can select this run report button to produce the report. So there's just one thing I want to check. I want to see the accounts that we entered for in our row set. So let's go to reports, define, and row set. And let's query our row set, which is Maskani. So balance sheet row set. Let's go to define rows. So our asset accounts, we did account assignments. Click here. Okay, so we are doing this for company one. Okay, that's fine. We're going to start with this one for company one, and then we are going to do a consolidated report for all the enterprises in here. Okay. So all we need to do is come and modify the row set and include all the companies here. Okay. Up to the elimination company, because it's something that I want to demonstrate. So that's good. Can save that and go back to run our report. So we can also use that button there from the straight from the row set, define report. We know that we have already defined ours, and it's called Maskani something, Maskani balance sheet. There it is. And all now we have to do is to run the report. Okay. So it brings you to this page that we have seen before. Here you will be asked to select the period that you want to run this for, and there's the effective date and the currency that you want to run this in. You have optional components here that you can also use at runtime, but we are going to see how to do that in later lessons. Okay. For now, we have all the required parameters. We have the Mascani, the name of the report there. It has a row set, Mascani balance sheet row set, and it has a column set, Mascani balance sheet column set. So we can just select submit. And we have our request ID right there. You can copy that and go to the SRS screen. Specific request ID, put it there, find. So let's wait for the report to be produced. So it looks like our report was completed and without any problems, and we can view output, and there is our report. Okay, so counts, it is showing the balances, and it's showing these are for company 1. Okay, we might have to do a bit of adjustments using some of the optional features that we have. Okay, so that these accounts can be legible, but you can see now the balances. I'm not sure why it's showing company 2 here for liability. I don't remember whether we checked the range for the liability accounts. Okay, so you can see our period of interest was October. Okay, and so it looks like there were no changes from August, which is our period of interest -2, through to October. Okay, and these are the balances for each of the accounts that we selected in that range. So this is a very basic report. We are going to modify it also so that we can be able to read it more clearly, and we are going to see how we can use the additional features that we have so that we can make those changes to our report. But basically, that is how you produce a simple FSG report, and this is our balance sheet report for the period of October. Okay. So Bob, unless you have something to add, I think that's a good place to end our lesson.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.